Commander Jake Harrison walked across the bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath. The massive ship moved through deep space like a silent giant. Its thick armor plates gleamed under the soft blue lights of the bridge. Jake had been in command of this dreadnought for 2 years now. Every day brought the same routine patrol through empty space. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Each person knew their job well. These were the best sailors in the human fleet. They had trained for years to serve on ships like this one. The Titan's Wrath was one of only 5 dreadnoughts that Earth had built. It carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Lisa Martinez sat at the communication station. She wore the blue uniform of a communications officer. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. She had been listening to radio signals from across the galaxy for the past 6 hours. Most of the time, space was completely silent. Then something changed. Lisa's eyes went wide as she heard something new. A voice was speaking in a language she had never heard before. The ship's computer was working hard to translate the words. The voice sounded scared and desperate. "Commander Harrison," Lisa called out. "I'm picking up a transmission, it's not human." Jake walked over to her station quickly. "What kind of transmission?" "It's a distress call, sir. The computer is still working on the translation, but I think someone is asking for help." The main screen at the front of the bridge lit up. Words began to appear as the computer finished translating the alien message. Jake read the words carefully. His face became serious as he understood what he was seeing. "We are peaceful traders of the Villani people. Our convoy is under attack by raiders in the Kepler 442 system. We have no weapons to defend ourselves. Any ships that can hear this message, please help us. We will share our coordinates. Please, we are dying." The bridge became very quiet. Every crew member had stopped what they were doing to listen. This was the first time any of them had heard an alien voice asking for help. Jake pressed a button on his command chair. "Navigation. What's our position relative to the Kepler 442 system?" Katie Brooks looked up from her navigation station. "We're about 6 hours away at maximum speed, Commander." "Admiral Collins needs to know about this," Jake said. He opened a communication channel to the UES Liberty's Edge. The carrier was the largest ship in their small fleet. Admiral Pete Collins commanded all 5 human ships from there. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. Pete Collins was an older man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had been fighting battles in space for longer than most of his crew had been alive. "What do you have for me, Jake?" the Admiral asked. "We've received an alien distress call. A species called the Villani. They're traders under attack by raiders." Admiral Collins was quiet for a moment. "How far?" 6 hours at full speed. Send me the message." Jake nodded to Lisa. She transmitted the alien distress call to the Liberty's Edge. The Admiral listened to the translated voice carefully. His expression did not change, but Jake could see him thinking. "Admiral," Jake said, "this could be our first chance to make contact with a friendly alien species." "Or it could be a trap," the Admiral replied. "But we can't ignore a distress call. I'm calling a fleet meeting in 30 minutes. All captains report to the Liberty's Edge." The communication ended. Jake turned to his crew. "Lisa, keep monitoring that channel. If you hear anything else, let me know immediately." "Yes, sir." Jake left the bridge and walked to the shuttle bay. Captain Amy Rodriguez from the UES Stormrunner was already there. She was a younger officer with dark hair and quick eyes. Her light cruiser was fast and deadly. "Did you hear the alien message?" she asked Jake. "Yes." "What do you think?" "I think we have to help them," Amy said. "If they're really peaceful traders, they don't deserve to die because we were too scared to act." They boarded a shuttle and flew to the Liberty's Edge. The carrier was huge inside. Its hangar bays could hold dozens of fighter ships. Jake and Amy met the other captains in the Admiral's ready room. Captain Ryan Murphy commanded the UES Night Stalker, a destroyer built for speed and stealth. Captain Bill Foster led the UES Iron Fist, another cruiser like Amy's ship. All 5 captains sat around a large table. Admiral Collins played the alien message again. The translated voice filled the room. Even though they had all heard it before, the fear and desperation in the alien's voice was still shocking. "Gentlemen and lady, the Admiral said. "We have a decision to make. This could be humanity's first military action alongside alien allies, or it could be our last mistake." "Sir," Amy said, "if we don't help, what does that say about us as a species? We've been searching for friendly aliens for decades. Now we find some and they're about to be killed by raiders." "The risks are real," Captain Murphy added. "We don't know anything about these raiders. We don't know how many ships they have or what kind of weapons they use. We don't know anything about the Volani either," Captain Foster said. "This could all be lies." Jake spoke up. "I've been listening to that message for the past hour. Either these aliens are the best actors in the galaxy, or they're really in trouble." Admiral Collins looked at each captain. "If we do this, we go in ready for a fight. Full battle stations, all weapons hot. We protect the traitors, but we also protect ourselves." "What about first contact protocols?" Amy asked. "We'll follow them as best we can," the Admiral said. "But if shooting starts, we shoot back harder." The captains all nodded. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Now it was time to see if humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump to Kepler 442, Admiral Collins ordered. "We're going to answer that distress call." Jake felt his heart beating faster as he returned to his ship. The crew of the Titan's Wrath would soon face their first real battle. They were heading into the unknown to fight an enemy they had never seen before. But they were also going to help people who needed them. That was what humans did. When someone called for help, they answered. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Space around them exploded into chaos. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath and watched the battle unfolding on his main screen. 12. Alien ships floated in space ahead of them. These had to be the Volani traders. Their ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were smooth and curved, almost like living things made of crystal and metal. Beautiful white and blue lights ran along their hulls in flowing patterns, but the beauty was being destroyed. 30 smaller ships swarmed around the Volani convoy like angry insects. These raider ships were dark and jagged. They moved fast and struck quickly before darting away. Bright energy beams shot between the ships, lighting up the darkness of space. "My God," whispered Lisa Martinez from her communications station. "There are so many of them." Lieutenant Commander Sue Parker worked at the tactical station. Her fingers flew across the controls as she analyzed what they were seeing. "Commander, I'm reading 30 hostile vessels. They appear to be from a species the Volani called the Kreks in their distress message." Jake watched the enemy ships move. They were smaller than human vessels but very fast. They darted in, fired their weapons, then pulled back before the Volani could respond. It was like watching wolves attack sheep. "What kind of weapons are they using?" Jake asked. "Energy-based," Sue replied, "but something strange. The beams look powerful enough to destroy those trader ships, but they're not. They're just damaging them." Jake understood immediately. They want the cargo intact. They're not trying to kill the traders, just disable their ships. Admiral Collins's voice came over the communication system. "All ships, this is Liberty's Edge. We have visual contact with both friendly and hostile forces. Begin first contact protocols immediately." Captain Amy Rodriguez from the Stormrunner appeared on Jake's screen. "Jake, look at the size difference. Those Volani ships are huge compared to the raiders, but they have no weapons at all. They're completely helpless." The Volani ships were indeed massive. Each one was 3 times the size of a human dreadnought, but Sue's sensors showed they had no armor and no weapons. They were built for carrying cargo across the galaxy, not for fighting wars. "Commander," Lisa called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the lead Volani ship." "Put it through." A new voice filled the bridge. The computer translated it into English, but the alien accent was still clear. The voice sounded tired and scared. "Unknown vessels, this is Trade Captain Gentle River Flow of the Volani Merchant Fleet. We thank you for answering our distress call. But please be careful. These Kreks raiders are dangerous and there are many of them." Jake looked at his crew. This was it. Humanity's first conversation with a friendly alien species. He pressed the communication button. Trade Captain Gentle Riverflow, this is Commander Harrison of the human vessel Titan's Wrath. We received your distress call and we're here to help. Are your people hurt? There was a pause. Then the alien voice returned, sounding surprised. Human? We have never heard of your species before. Your ships look very different from ours. They appear to be built for war. They are. Jake replied honestly. We're going to get you out of here safely. On his tactical display, Jake could see the Krex raiders had noticed the human fleet. Several of the enemy ships had stopped attacking the Volani and were now moving toward the newcomers. Sue, what can you tell me about their capabilities? Sue studied her readings carefully. The Krex ships are fast but lightly built. Their weapons are designed for disabling other ships, not destroying them. They've probably never fought anyone who could fight back effectively. Admiral Collins opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, prepare for combat operations. Launch all. Fighters, this is not a drill. The hangar bay doors of the Liberty's Edge opened. 12 human fighter ships shot out into space like bullets from a gun. Major Alex Thompson led the squadron in his advanced interceptor. The fighters moved with deadly precision that even Jake found impressive. Commander, Lisa said. I'm picking up Krex communications. The computer is translating now. The enemy. Transmissions appeared on Jake's screen. The Krex were talking to each other in short, harsh sentences. They sounded confused and angry. What are these new ships? They look like warships. All species in this sector are weak. These will be no different. Their fighters move strangely. Very aggressive. Jake smiled grimly. The Krex had never seen human military tactics before. They were about to learn why Earth was considered a dangerous world. Trade Captain Gentle Riverflow spoke again. Human Commander Harrison, you should know that these raiders are not just thieves. Our intelligence suggests they are scouts for a larger Krex invasion force. They have been testing the defenses of this trade route. This was worse news than Jake had expected. How large is this invasion force? We believe several hundred ships. The Krex are a warrior culture. They have conquered many peaceful species in this region of space. Admiral Collins appeared on Jake's communication screen. His face was serious. Jake, did you hear that? We're not just dealing with pirates. This is the advance guard of an invasion. Yes, sir, what are your orders? We stick to the plan. Protect the traders and show these Krex what human military power looks like. But now we know this is bigger than just one convoy. The Krex raiders were getting closer. Jake could see them on his main screen now. Their ships were ugly and scarred from many battles. They moved in loose formations, not like the tight military formations humans used. Communications Officer Morris on the Liberty's Edge reports that the Krex fleet commander is trying to contact us, Lisa said. Put it through. A new alien voice filled the bridge. This one was deeper and more aggressive than the Volani trader. The computer translation made it sound cold and threatening. Unknown warships. I am Thak Rex, commander of this raiding fleet. You have entered Krex hunting grounds. Leave now or we will add your ships to our collection. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was ready for battle. Their faces showed no fear, only determination. These were warriors from Earth, a world that had seen thousands of years of warfare. Admiral Collins will handle the response, Jake said, but I think we all know what it's going to be. Admiral Collins' reply was broadcast to the entire Krex fleet. His voice was calm but filled with authority. Krex Commander Thak Rex, this is Admiral Collins of the human fleet. We are escorting these Volani traders to safety. You will cease your attacks and withdraw immediately. Thak Rex laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. Humans? Never heard of you. This sector belongs to the Krex. We have defeated every species we have encountered. You will surrender or be destroyed. Admiral Collins's response was simple and direct. You have 1 hour to withdraw. After that, any hostile action will be met with appropriate force. The communication ended. Jake knew that in 1 hour, the galaxy would see what happened when someone threatened people under human protection. The hour passed slowly. Commander Jake Harrison watched the clock on his bridge display count down. Around him, his crew prepared the Titan's Wrath for battle. This would be humanity's first real fight against an alien enemy. Chief Weapons Officer, Maria Santos, worked at her station with calm focus. She had been loading the ship's massive guns for the past 30 minutes. The main batteries held magnetic accelerator rounds that could punch through almost any armor. The secondary guns were loaded with explosive shells designed to destroy smaller targets. Weapons status report, Jake ordered. All main guns loaded and ready, Commander. Secondary batteries at full capacity. Point defense systems online. We're ready for anything they can throw at us. Jake nodded. The Titan's wrath carried more firepower than most planets had ever seen. But they were facing 30 enemy ships. Numbers could still matter in space combat. On the main screen, the Krex raiders had formed up into their attack formations. They moved in groups of 3 or 4 ships, darting around like a pack of predators. Thakrex had positioned his command ship at the center of the formation. Commander, Communications Officer Lisa Martinez called out. The Krex fleet commander is sending us another message. Put it through. Thakrex's voice filled the bridge again. The alien sounded confident and mocking. Human fleet, your hour is finished. We have studied your ships during this time. You have only 5 vessels. We have 30. Your defeat is certain. Surrender now, and we will allow you to live as our slaves. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. These raiders had been terrorizing peaceful traders for who knew how long. They thought humans would be just another easy target. Admiral Collins responded from the Liberty's edge. His voice was calm, but deadly serious. Krex Commander, you were warned. Your people chose to ignore that warning. You will now face the consequences of that choice. The communication ended. Jake knew the battle was about to begin. All hands, this is the commander, Jake announced over the ship's internal communication system. We are about to engage a hostile alien force. These raiders have been attacking peaceful traders. We're here to stop them. Do your duty and we'll all go home safely. Captain Amy Rodriguez appeared on Jake's communication screen from the Stormrunner. Her face was focused and ready. Jake, my crew is requesting permission to fire the first shot. We want to show these aliens what human weapons can do. Granted, Amy, light them up. The Stormrunner moved forward ahead of the other human ships. It was smaller than the Titan's Wrath, but much faster. Amy positioned her cruiser between the Krex raiders and the Volani traders. Captain Ryan Murphy's voice came over the fleet channel from the Night Stalker destroyer. Admiral Collins requesting permission to demonstrate our missile capabilities. I want to put a few hunter-killers in the space between us and them. Let them see what they're dealing with. Permission granted, Ryan. Fire when ready. The night. Stalker's missile tubes opened. 6 long-range missiles shot out into space. These were not ordinary projectiles. Each missile had its own computer brain and could think for itself. They spread out in a wide pattern and began hunting for targets. On his tactical display, Jake watched the missiles move. They flew in unpredictable patterns, making them almost impossible to intercept. The Krex ships tried to shoot them down but failed. The missiles were too smart and too fast. Commander? Sue Parker reported from the tactical station. The Krex are trying to jam our missile guidance systems. Are they succeeding? No, sir. Our missiles are designed to work independently. Even if they lose contact with the ship, they'll keep hunting targets. Jake smiled. Human weapons were built by a species that had been fighting wars for thousands of years. Every system had backups. Every weapon was designed to work even in the worst conditions. The Krex fleet began to move toward the human ships. They came in their traditional swarm formation, all 30 ships moving at once. It was an impressive sight, but Jake had studied military history. He knew that quantity did not always beat quality. Maria, target the lead group of raiders. I want to show them what our main guns can do. Targeting solution locked, Commander. Ready to fire on your command. Jake watched the enemy ships approach. They were moving fast, probably hoping to get close before the humans could react properly. They had no idea what they were about to face. Fire. The Titan's Wrath main gun spoke for the first time in anger. 3 magnetic accelerator rounds shot out at incredible speed. Each round was a solid piece of metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. When they hit their targets, the results were devastating. The first Krex raider simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of glowing debris. The second ship lost its entire front section and began tumbling, helplessly through space. The third raider tried to dodge but was too slow. The round punched through its hull and exploded out the other side. The remaining Krek ships suddenly stopped their charge. Jake could imagine the shock on their bridges. They had never seen weapons that could destroy ships so completely with single shots. "Commander," Lisa reported, "I'm picking up panicked communications from the Krek's fleet. They're asking each other what kind of weapons we just used." Trade Captain Gentle River Flow contacted the human fleet again. The Volani's voice was filled with amazement. "Human Admiral Collins, we have never seen such powerful weapons. How do you make your projectiles move so fast?" Admiral Collins replied calmly, "We've had a lot of practice, Trade Captain. These raiders won't bother you much longer." Captain Rodriguez opened fire with the Stormrunner's weapons. Her cruiser carried smaller guns than the Titan's Wrath, but they fired much faster. Streams of projectiles shot toward the Krek's formation. Each round was guided by its own targeting system. The raiders tried to dodge, but human weapons were designed to track moving targets. Several more Krek ships took damage. Their energy shields, designed to stop other energy weapons, were useless against solid projectiles moving at such high speeds. "Commander," Sue reported, "the enemy is changing tactics. They're spreading out, more trying to avoid concentrated fire." "Good," Jake replied. "That means they're starting to understand what they're facing." Major Alex Thompson's fighter squadron had been circling the battle area, waiting for orders. Now Admiral Collins gave them their chance. "All fighters, you are cleared to engage. Show them how human pilots fight." The 12 human fighters dove toward the Krek's formation like hawks attacking mice. Each fighter was faster and more maneuverable than the raider ships, but more importantly, each human pilot had trained for years in combat tactics. The fighters split into groups of 3 and began hunting individual Krek ships. They used coordination and teamwork that the raiders had never seen before. When one fighter attacked from the front, another would strike from behind. When the enemy tried to escape, a third fighter would be waiting. Jake watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Kreks had thought they could overwhelm the humans with numbers. Instead, they were being systematically destroyed by superior technology and tactics. "Commander," Lisa called out, "Thak Rex is trying to contact us again. Let's hear what he has to say now." The Krek's commander's voice was different this time. The confidence was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like fear. "Human ships, we did not know you were such powerful warriors. Perhaps we can discuss terms." Admiral Collins responded immediately. "The terms are simple. Withdraw from this system immediately, and never attack Volani traders again. But your honor demands that you stop attacking defenseless merchants," the Admiral interrupted. "You have 5 minutes to begin your withdrawal." Jake knew the Kreks would not surrender easily. Warriors rarely did. But they had just learned something important about humans. Earth had produced the most dangerous predators in known space, and now those predators had ships and weapons to match their hunting instincts. The 5 minutes passed. Thak Rex did not order his fleet to withdraw. Instead, the Krek's commander chose to fight. It was exactly what Commander Jake Harrison had expected. Warriors from aggressive species rarely backed down from a challenge. "All Krek ships attack Formation 7. Thak Rex's voice crackled across the communication channels. "Show these humans what happens when they interfere with Krek's business." The remaining 26 raider ships spread out in a wide circle around the human fleet. They began moving in complex spirals, each ship following a different path. It was their standard swarm tactic, designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. Lieutenant Sarah Wheeler sat at the fire control station aboard the Stormrunner. Captain Rodriguez had given her control of the cruiser's weapon systems. Sarah watched the enemy ships move on her display screen. "Captain, they're using evasive pattern Delta 7. My targeting computer is having trouble locking onto individual ships." "Switch to area bombardment mode," Rodriguez ordered. "If they want to bunch up, we'll hit all of them at once." The Stormrunner's secondary batteries rotated to face the swirling mass of Krek ships. Instead of trying to hit individual targets, Sarah programmed the weapons to fire into the center of their formation. Each shell would explode and send fragments in all directions. Firing area bombardment, Sarah announced. Dozens of explosive shells shot toward the Krex formation. The raiders tried to scatter, but they had packed themselves too tightly together. The shells exploded in bright flashes, filling space with deadly metal fragments. 3 more Krex ships took serious damage. One of them began spinning out of control, its steering systems destroyed. Another lost its main engines and started drifting helplessly. The third raider managed to escape the bombardment but was trailing atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Direct hit, Sarah reported with satisfaction. Enemy formation is breaking apart. Major Alex Thompson led his fighter squadron through the chaos. The human pilots moved like they had been flying together for years. When one fighter engaged an enemy ship, the others provided cover. When a Krex raider tried to escape, another human fighter was waiting to intercept it. Thompson locked onto a Krex ship that was trying to flee toward the edge of the system. His fighter was faster and more maneuverable than the alien vessel. He closed the distance quickly and fired a burst from his energy cannons. The raiders' rear shields collapsed under the assault. Thompson's next burst punched through the hull and hit something vital inside. The Krex ship exploded in a ball of orange fire. Splash 1 Bandit, Thompson reported over the squadron frequency. These guys fight like they've never seen real pilots before. He was right. The Krex had spent years attacking defenseless traders. They were used to enemies that could not fight back effectively. Human military pilots were something completely different. Every human fighter pilot had trained in combat tactics since childhood. They thought about warfare the way other species thought about art or music. Aboard the Titan's Wrath, Jake watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. The human fleet was systematically destroying the Krex raiders. But he noticed something troubling. "Sue, are you seeing what I'm seeing?" Lieutenant Commander Sue Parker looked up from her tactical station. "If you mean that the Krex are fighting harder than they should be, then yes, sir. They're not retreating even though they're clearly losing." "They're buying time for something," Jake realized. "Lisa, scan the outer system. Are there any other ships out there?" Lisa Martinez worked her controls frantically. The communication equipment could also work as a long-range sensor when properly configured. After a few minutes, she found what Jake was looking for. "Commander, I'm picking up hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts jumping in." Jake's heart sank. "How many?" "At least 50 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're too far away for detailed scans, but they're big. Much bigger than these raiders." The main Krex invasion force had arrived. Admiral Collins' voice came over the fleet communication system. "All ships, we have incoming reinforcements for the enemy. Continue engaging current targets, but prepare for a fighting withdrawal." Jake understood immediately. The human fleet could handle 30 raiders, but 50 or more warships was a different problem. They would need to finish this fight quickly and get the Villani traders to safety. "Maria, target Thakrex's command ship with everything we have. I want that raider commander eliminated." Chief Weapons Officer Maria Santos smiled grimly. "With pleasure, Commander. All main guns targeting enemy flagship." The Titan's Wrath turned its massive bulk toward Thakrex's ship. The Krex commander had been staying at the back of his formation, directing the battle from what he thought was a safe distance. He was about to learn that there was no safe distance from human weapons. "Firing all main batteries," Maria announced. 6. Magnetic accelerator rounds shot toward the Krex flagship. Thakrex tried to dodge, but his ship was too large and slow. The first round hit his forward shields and overloaded them completely. The second round punched through his hull armor like it was paper. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth rounds turned his ship into scrap metal. The explosion was visible across the entire battlefield. Thakrex and his crew died instantly, vaporized by the incredible forces unleashed by human weapons technology. The remaining Krex raiders suddenly lost their coordination. Without their commander, they began fighting as individuals instead of as a fleet. This made them even easier targets for the disciplined human forces. Captain Ryan Murphy aboard the Night Stalker saw his opportunity. The destroyer had been waiting for the perfect moment to demonstrate human missile technology. Now, with the enemy scattered and confused, that moment had arrived. "Fire all missile tubes," Murphy ordered. "Full salvo, multiple targets." 24 hunter-killer missiles launched from the Night Stalker. Each missile was programmed to find and destroy a different Krex ship. They spread out across the battlefield like a school of mechanical fish, each one hunting its own prey. Here, Krex raiders tried desperately to shoot down the incoming missiles, but it was hopeless. Human missiles were designed to survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. They could dodge, weave, and even split into smaller warheads if necessary. One by one, the missiles found their targets. Each explosion removed another raider from the battle. Within 5 minutes, only 8 Krex ships remained from the original 30. Admiral Collins, Trade Captain Gentle River Flow transmitted from the Volani convoy. Your weapons are beyond anything we have ever imagined. How is this possible? Admiral Collins replied while watching his tactical display. We come from a dangerous world, Trade Captain. We've had to become very good at protecting ourselves. The surviving Krex raiders finally began to retreat. They had seen enough human military power to understand that they were completely outmatched, but their retreat was cut short by the arrival of the main invasion force. 52 large Krex warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. These were not raiders or pirates. These were military vessels built for conquest. Each one was larger than a human cruiser and bristled with weapons. Commander, Sue reported grimly, those new ships are launching fighters. I count over 200 small craft heading our way. Jake looked at his crew. They had just won a victory against overwhelming odds, but now they faced an even greater challenge. The real Krex military had arrived, and they looked angry. Admiral Collins, Jake transmitted, recommend we form up for fighting withdrawal. Get the Volani traders to the hyperspace jump point while we hold off the invasion force. Agreed, the Admiral replied. All ships, protect those traders. We didn't come this far to watch them die now. The human fleet moved into defensive formation around the Volani convoy. 5 human warships against 52 alien ones. The odds were impossible, but Jake had faith in his crew and his ship. After all, they were from Earth. Impossible odds were just another day at the office. The Krex invasion fleet approached like a storm across space. 52 warships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Commander Jake Harrison watched them come and felt a chill run down his spine. Each enemy ship was 3 times the size of his destroyer escorts. Admiral Collins, Jake transmitted from the Titan's Wrath. We need to get those Volani traders out of here now. Agreed, came the reply from the Liberty's Edge. All ships escort formation around the convoy. We're making a run for the hyperspace jump point. The 12 Volani trade ships began moving toward the edge of the system. Their massive hulls looked graceful but slow compared to the approaching Krex warships. Trade Captain Gentle River Flow transmitted to the human fleet. Admiral Collins, you should abandon us and save yourselves. Your 5 ships cannot defeat 52 enemy warships. We do not wish your deaths on our conscience. Admiral Pete Collins looked around his bridge. His crew was preparing for what might be their final battle. But not one of them suggested retreat. Trade Captain, humans don't abandon people who need help. We'll get you to safety. The Krex invasion force was close enough now that individual ships could be seen on the main screens. They were ugly vessels, built for war and conquest. Gun ports lined their hulls like angry eyes. Fighter craft swarmed around them like insects. Captain Amy Rodriguez transmitted from the Storm Runner. Admiral, the enemy fighters are moving to intercept the convoy. Permission to engage with our remaining interceptors. Granted, all fighters protect those trade ships. Major Alex Thompson led the human fighter squadron toward the approaching swarm of Krex fighters. His pilots were outnumbered 20-1, but they had already proven that human military training made up for a lot. Listen up, people, Thompson transmitted to his squadron. We don't have to destroy all of them. We just need to buy time for the convoy to reach the jump point. Hit, hard and fast, then get out. The fighter battle began as the 2 forces met in the space between the fleets. Human interceptors dove into the mass of Krex fighters like sharks attacking a school of fish. Each human pilot used tactics learned from centuries of aerial combat. On Earth, Thompson locked onto a Krex fighter and fired. His energy cannons punched through the alien's shields and tore the small ship apart. But 3 more enemy fighters immediately moved to attack him from different angles. He rolled his interceptor hard to the left, pulling forces that would have crushed most alien pilots. Humans from Earth were used to high gravity and violent maneuvers. The Krex pilots could not match his agility. Meanwhile, the main Krex fleet had moved close enough to open fire on the human ships. Energy beams lanced across space, striking the human vessels. But Admiral Collins had positioned his fleet carefully. "All ships return fire," he ordered. "Show them what human weapons can do." The Titan's Wrath spoke first. Jake had ordered all main guns to target the largest Krex warship. 6 magnetic accelerator rounds crossed the distance in seconds. The enemy ship's shields flared and collapsed under the assault. The rounds punched through its armor and exploded, deep inside its hull. The Krex warship did not die immediately like the smaller raiders had. It was built tougher and had better armor, but it was badly damaged and began falling behind the rest of the invasion fleet. Captain Rodriguez opened fire with the Storm Runner's weapons. Her cruiser targeted a group of 3 enemy ships and fired everything it had. The concentrated barrage overwhelmed their defenses and sent 2 of them spinning out of control. "Admiral," Captain Ryan Murphy transmitted from the Night Stalker, "I'm seeing something interesting. These big warships don't maneuver very well. They're used to fighting enemies that can't hurt them." Murphy was right. The Krex invasion fleet was powerful but slow. Their ships had been designed to overwhelm peaceful species that had no real military forces. They had never faced enemies with weapons that could actually damage them. "All ships, hit-and-run tactics," Admiral Collins ordered. "Stay mobile and keep hitting them." The human fleet began a fighting retreat toward the hyperspace jump point. They would fire a salvo at the Krex ships, then move to a new position before the enemy could respond effectively. It was a tactic as old as warfare itself. The Villani convoy was getting closer to safety, but the Krex were getting closer too. Several enemy ships had broken off from the main fleet and were trying to intercept the traders before they could escape. "Jake," Admiral Collins transmitted, "take the Titan's Wrath and stop those interceptors. The rest of us will keep the main fleet busy." "Understood, Admiral." Jake turned his massive dreadnought toward the Krex ships threatening the convoy. The Titan's Wrath was the most powerful human vessel in the fleet. If anyone could stop the interceptors, it was his ship and crew. "Maria, target those ships with everything we have. I want them stopped permanently." Chief Weapons Officer Maria Santos worked her controls with deadly precision. "All weapons locked and loaded, Commander. Ready to fire." Fire. The Titan's Wrath unleashed its full fury on the Krex interceptors. Main guns, secondary batteries, and missile systems all fired at once. The space around the enemy ships filled with explosions and deadly projectiles. 2 Krex warships disappeared in balls of fire. A third lost its engines and began drifting, helplessly. The 4th tried to retreat but ran directly into a spread of hunter-killer missiles from the Night Stalker. "Trade Captain Gentle River Flow," Jake transmitted. "You're clear to jump. Get your people to safety." "Thank you, Commander Harrison. The Villani people will never forget what you have done for us today." One by one, the 12 Villani trade ships vanished into hyperspace. They were safe. The human fleet had accomplished its mission, but the battle was not over. The main Krex invasion force was still advancing, and now they looked very angry. Admiral Collins made a decision that would change galactic history. "All ships were not running. We're going to finish this." Jake smiled grimly. "Admiral, there are still 47 enemy ships out there." "Then we better get started," Collins replied. The human fleet turned toward the Krex invasion force. 5 ships against 47. The odds were impossible, but the humans had something the Krex did not understand. They came from a world where only the strongest survived. They had evolved to fight against impossible odds. Major Thompson's fighter squadron regrouped and prepared for another attack. His pilots had shot down dozens of enemy fighters, but hundreds more remained. It did not matter. They would keep fighting until the job was done. The Storm Runner and Iron Fist moved to flank the enemy formation. Captain Rodriguez and Captain Foster coordinated their attack to hit the Krex fleet from 2 directions at once. The Night Stalker used its speed to dart in and out of the enemy formation, launching missiles and disappearing before the Krex could respond. Captain Murphy turned his destroyer into a ghost that struck without warning. And at the center of it all, the Titan's wrath stood like a fortress in space. Jake's dreadnought absorbed the heaviest enemy fire while dealing out destruction with its massive guns. The battle raged for hours. Slowly, the human fleet began to win, not through superior numbers, but through superior training, better weapons, and the kind of determination that only came from a species that had spent thousands of years learning how to survive. When the last Krex warship finally surrendered, Admiral Collins looked around his damaged bridge. His fleet had won the impossible victory, but more importantly, they had announced to the galaxy that humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. Word of the battle spread faster than hyperspace travel. Species across the galaxy heard how 5 human ships had defeated a Krex invasion fleet. Some were amazed, others were frightened. All of them wanted to know more about these new warriors from Earth. The Deathworlder fleet had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.